What is going on, everyone? It's LFC Transfer Room here with a match preview. For once, Neil, Rigo, I think everyone can just be a little bit more confident, a little bit more relaxed. You know, we're in 7th place. Things are looking good, are they not, Neil?
Things are certainly looking better than they were a week ago. So I think the Man City performance, as well as the result, was fantastic. And we followed it up with not the greatest display, but the right result on Wednesday. So certainly a lot happier than we were 7 days ago.
Workmanlike, Neil, workmanlike.
Yes, resilient.
Now, Rigo, you are demonstrating one of our new backgrounds for the head-to-head. How are you doing? Are you enjoying the new background?
Yeah, doing great. Figured let's put at least some numbers on the background here. You kind of use the green screen to throw some information up on there. Definitely looking forward to tomorrow's match. I'm over here in Pennsylvania, so it'll be an early start for me around 7:30 in the morning. But I'll make sure to get a cup of Joe before the match, and look forward to continuing the streak of clean sheets and wins.
For our non-American viewers, what he means by Joe is coffee. Coffee is what Joe is. If you're on chat with Rigo, and this is just me being like an entitled Brit. He's there going, "Oh yeah, I'm going to be watching it at 7 a.m." I'm like, "What? Oh right, yeah, he's in America. Oh, it's 2 p.m. here." I was like, "What?" But you get used to it eventually. But Neil, tomorrow, there's a couple of things to be excited about, isn't there? You know, Mo Salah started scoring again. Darwin Núñez, I mean, not even a first touch, that guy. He just smashes it the second the ball's anywhere near sort of hit and hope territory, and he hits it hard. There's a few things to be excited about, isn't there?
Yeah, I think finally, surprisingly enough, as Salah's played slightly more central, particularly against Manchester City, we saw a vastly improved performance, a fantastic performance from him really against Manchester City, and then Núñez with a very impressive performance again on Wednesday. As you say, he's not afraid to have a shot either foot, and I think he's right-footed, but his efforts with his left foot are, tremendous. Two good efforts. The one that smashed the post, and the other one was a good save from Fabianski. So I think that's a positive. Whether Núñez will start because of his slight issue with his hamstring, I'm not so sure. And also numbers starting to come back in midfield a little bit as well. So that will help out with rotation, both centrally and in those two kind of wide areas, because the likes of Jones can obviously fill in on the left side as well as Carvalho. So fairly positive.
Fairly positive. Still a little bit hesitant. We're going to get you full positive before we're out. I'm especially with Helior being in here, but Nottingham Forrest, a bit like us, Rigo. They're in a bit of a thing where they brought in unlike us, they brought in all these faces, and they brought in too many faces. Probably we didn't bring in enough. And it's two sides to the different coin. Now, it seems Liverpool have started to pull things together, and Forest is still trying to work out what their best 11 is. Whilst they sit at the bottom of the Premier League table, they have got some good players in that starting 11, and I think when they click, they'll click well, won't they?
Yeah, it's definitely been a work in progress for Steve Cooper there at Nottingham Forest with all the upheaval as far as incomings to the team. It's pretty unrecognizable from the team that he brought up from the championship. So getting them to play as a cohesive unit has been a struggle, as you can tell by their record. They're sitting dead last in the Premier League. Only netted 7 goals against 23. So I'm thinking tomorrow we'll definitely have the upper hand, especially considering how much more solid we are defensively in these past few matches. But for Steve Cooper, I'm sure now he's starting to feel the pressure, as we've seen so far this season in the Premier League. Teams aren't afraid of chopping heads. Stevie G got the axe yesterday, and probably Stevie C is feeling the heat now to kind of turn things around and get Nottingham, collecting points. Luckily, towards the bottom of the table, everything's still a little bit bunched up, so they still have a chance to sneak out of that bottom three. But tomorrow, I don't foresee that happening. I see a comfortable win, hopefully on our end.
Neil, I'm going to come to you on this one because I was gutted for him, to be honest. I was gutted for Stevie to be let go by Villa. I can understand why. I can understand the decision that was made because attackingly they're not doing it. But it's disappointing for him, isn't it? Because he had all the components to be a good team at Villa. And I wonder if losing Mike Beale, who obviously looks to be coming to the Premier League, was really detrimental to him.
Yeah, but I think, I think it was. But he's also got some good people. He also had some good people with him. So the likes of Gary McAllister, Neil Critchley, who we had with the under 23s, I think, or one of the youth teams at the club, and he was manager of Blackpool last season, I think it was, and then he made the decision to go with him. So I do think it was a bit of a blow losing him, but as I say, I think he still surrounded himself with good people. The thing that surprised me, and I watched them live, I was actually at West Ham versus Aston Villa last season. Someone gave me a ticket. They were quite negative, and they were almost playing for a point away at West Ham, which really surprised me because they were time wasting. They were trying to kill the game, and I was thinking, with his background, I would expect a much better brand of football than I actually saw. So that was I was a bit suspicious when I saw that. And there's been games where they've looked all right. They played well against Chelsea last week when he changed things up a little bit, but it's just not worked. I don't think Coutinho is worked for him. I always think they look better with Bundia on the pitch rather than Coutinho. So I think it's a harsh lesson for him. It may be good for him long term because he went straight into management. Obviously, got involved with the academy at Liverpool, straight into Rangers, won the league with Rangers for the first time in a long time, and he probably thought, "Oh, this is easy." So he's now found himself in a difficult situation, and I think you probably learn more about him as a manager now as to how he reacts to that setback, as to what we've learned over the last few months, really.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. And Rigo, for you, just Macias is already calling Liz Truss to be the next Aston Villa manager, and I'm sure she could, probably do better than 44 days as she did as UK Prime Minister. But many were saying, Stevie for the next Liverpool manager, and I don't think he was ever going. He needed a good couple of jobs before he got anywhere near that sort of level. But you've got to come down sometimes to go up again, don't you?
Definitely. I'm sure Steve will take this as a learning experience and apply it to the next job that he does get, whether it's back in the Premier League on one of the, I'm sure, lower sides or in another league. It's to be determined. I'm sure he'll probably take some time off and contemplate where it went wrong at Aston Villa. As you were saying, Neil, for all the offensive talent that Villa had at its disposal, but you kind of had that feeling that the attacking mentality that Steve's teams displayed with the Rangers, he wasn't able to translate into the Premier League, and you definitely felt the fans turning on him pretty quickly from that hot start when he initially came on. I know they ended the last year on a bad stretch, and this year obviously they haven't turned things on. But the unfortunate part as well is that due to injuries, he's kind of had to rely on players that he was hoping to phase out, namely one that might be responsible for his immediate dismissal in Tyrone Mings scoring an own goal yesterday. I know, from all accounts, Steve didn't want him in the starting 11, but with Diego Carlos, one of their big offseason signings, going down with that knee injury, he was kind of forced to play him, and we've seen the results thus far this season. Hopefully, Steve does pick himself back up and finds a good job, whether it's in the Premier League or perhaps coming back to Liverpool and managing one of our under 21s, under 23 teams, yet to be seen. But all the best to him. You'll never walk alone, as we all know, and I'm sure all of us are rooting for the best for him here.
Now, Helios saying tight hamstring for Nunes, doubtful for tomorrow, but Darwin Nunes has just clocked the fastest ever speed of a Premier League player, Neil. The guy should not be able to run that fast.
He didn't look like he was running that far. I saw someone posted the clip of when he was sprinting. It looked quick, but it didn't seem exceptionally quick. But yeah, he's he's an interesting one. I think potentially if he puts it all together, he's going to be an unbelievable player because he has got absolutely everything.
Now, the average human can run at 16 kilometers per hour. The world record for a human is 44 kilometers an hour, which is Usain Bolt. And obviously he hit 38. But Rigo, the really important question is, can he run faster than can Darwin Nunes run faster than a polar bear?
Unfortunately, I still highly doubt that. Polar bears are absolutely extremely fast. So I doubt that.
30 kilometers an hour, a polar bear. But I tell you what,
can he keep it up? Can he keep it up? You know, especially with that tight hamstring, he might blow it. And I know polar bears have pretty good stamina there, chasing down seals. So, in the long run, if it's a full field sprint, I'll take my money on the polar bear, at least for now.
But what about an African elephant?
That I'm unable to answer at that.
An African elephant can hit a speed of 40 kilometers an hour. So Usain Bolt can get away, but Darwin Nunes cannot.
Oh, jeez. Well, let's hope he's never on safari.
What he does in summer is up to him. I'll tell you one thing for certain: he will not be able to get away from a peregrine falcon that can hit 389 kilometers an hour. But just a bit of fun, just to sort of impact the sort of impact he could have. But Neil's right. Once he puts it all together, Rigo, Darwin Nunes could be an unstoppable force in the Premier League because he doesn't look as quick as he is. He's obviously big. He's obviously powerful. He has a wicked shot on him and hits it with seemingly infinite power. We're starting to see why Liverpool signed him, aren't we?
I think we saw that from the initial get-go in preseason when he scored 2 goals, I believe, or 3 goals actually against Borussia Dortmund. We saw the potential there, and now it's coming to fruition in the Premier League. His natural ability is quite evident. Just, his height, speed combo is just unbelievable. He doesn't look as quick as he is because he's tall. So those long strides kind of fool you a little bit. But the way he just ran down and got those 2 half volleys off with his left foot and, creating chances out of nowhere. So with that natural ability and then him getting used to our style of play, our players getting, the players that have been here getting used to him and putting the balls in the proper position for him, I think sky's the limit. He looks very, very dangerous. And once his decision-making catches up to his ability, watch out. He's going to be unbelievable and unreal. His per 90 stats are already, topping in number 1 if you go by per 90, whether it's shots on goal, touches inside the box, percentage of touches inside the box. We kind of highlighted those yesterday on the stream. I think those, he'll be able to continue those and, pull out, unbelievable goals for us.
Darwin Helio pointing out that 36.5 was the fastest recorded top speed by Darwin Nunes against Fulham. And as Matty says, he won't beat a cheetah who can hit speeds of 120 kilometers an hour, which is slower than a sailfish that can go 130 kilometers an hour, but that's in the water, so not really relevant. I'm going to keep doing this throughout the stream. I'm sorry, Neil. But let's start to look at tomorrow and let's start to build our team together. Back 4 for you, Neil. Who's your back 4 coming into this next game?
So I think it will be Trent Alexander-Arnold, Joe Gomez, Virgil van Dijk, and Andy Robertson. So I think he'll rotate the left back. I have a feeling Milner may start in midfield. I could be wrong. I wouldn't do that. I said I have a feeling that's what he may do. I wouldn't do that personally. So I think it'll be Trent, Joe Gomez, Virgil van Dijk, Andy Robertson.
And Rigo, 2 thumbs up to that. You don't think that he's going to go with Costas?
No, Costa seemed to tire off towards the end of the match. It's towards the end of our previous match, and we saw Andy come in. I think, he's kind of trying to swap them in and out, keep them both in form and in shape, and use them each to the best, to maximize each of their minutes. So I definitely would see Andy starting on the left side there. Virgil, as we all know, he's not coming off of the pitch. And as far as our center back pairings, Gomez has to still remain the starter there. Matip is still out, and as we know, Konate, he should be back to training next week, but he's still unavailable. As far as on the right side, I can't see Milner starting again there, just for the simple fact that 3 matches in a short week is kind of a lot for him. Kind of got to save him, save those legs, even though we shouldn't be relying on him so much. But I can definitely see Trent starting on the right back spot. So I'm in agreement there with Neil.
Now, I'll stick with you on this, Rigo. Midfield 2, and this could be a difficult one because obviously you've got Thiago, you've got Fab, you've got Henderson, you've got Curtis Jones, who actually played on the left, which I found quite interesting. This should be a game where we're dominating, so it should be ball players more than defensive midfielders, should it not?
For this match, I can kind of see the same thing that Klopp is doing with Costas and Andy. Do the same thing with Henderson and Fabinho. I could see Fabinho starting, the match and keeping Thiago in there as well as the 2 in the midfield. What about you, Neil?
I'm going to be controversial. As I said, it's not what I would do. I have a feeling Thiago will be on the bench because I think there was a bit of a niggle the other night that concerned the manager. Henderson played the full game, played well actually. So I'm not convinced he will start. So I have a feeling he will go with Fabinho and James Milner.
Interesting.
That would definitely scare me.
No, I agree. And because Fabinho was awful when he came on the other night. He will play. It's just who plays alongside him, I think. So not my personal choice, but I can see him making 5 changes. There's so many games. The Ajax game's a big game in midweek. So
what about Bacetich?
Yeah, I would like to see Bacetich get an opportunity, but I just can't see it with all of them coming back. Naby Keita will be back in training on Monday. I just can't see it at the moment. But there is the League Cup game coming up, so I suspect he will play in that.
Okay, and sticking with you, Neil, let's go front 3. Front 4, we might as well do it as a 4-2-4 now. So let's
so I did my predicted 11 earlier, and I had 5 changes because I think that's roughly what he normally goes for when we've got tight set of fixtures. So I had Harvey Elliott on the right, so he didn't start in midweek. I think he will play. I had Curtis Jones on the left. I think he could replace Fabio Carvalho out there. And then I had Roberto Firmino behind Mohamed Salah because I think they won't take a risk with Darwin Núñez.
Okay. I have one major issue, which I'll come back to after Rigo's given me his front 4, just because of something that I've seen. What's your front 4, Rigo?
Yeah, as Neil was mentioning towards the end of his picks there with Núñez, perhaps being a little off with that thigh and not trying to take that chance. We can see him off the bench or not even named to the squad, depending on what happened today after the Klopp's press conference. So going left to right, I could foresee Carvalho starting again. He did a pretty good job this last match. Young legs, and I could definitely see him still keeping that starting position with Firmino and Salah combining up top, and Elliott coming in since he didn't start the last match.
Okay, so you both hit the same issue that I've got. And the issue that I've got, and I don't blame anyone for it, it's just I don't think Trent and Elliott can work together. I think Elliott had such a great game because Milner was communicating where to defend, when to press, where to move, and how to position himself. Now, I don't think Trent's the best communicator when it comes to defensive positioning. And I think Elliott's vastly inexperienced when it comes to defensive position. So I was thinking that it would be more likely that Salah could be on the right, Elliott could be behind, and Firmino could be up top, because that seems to be our weak area, especially when we played a 4-3-3. Neil, what do you think?
I don't disagree with you, because if you look at the early problematic start to the season that we had, a lot of the problems did come down our right side. So yeah, I don't disagree, and I wouldn't be against it. I just don't think it's something that he'll do. I think he likes Elliott out on that right side. He's going to stick with Trent more often than not at right back. So I'd be surprised if Elliott didn't play on the right tomorrow. And I think in this game, you would hope, as you say, we should control the game. Yeah. You know, we should be okay, but I don't disagree with you.
No, he could play Fab on the right side of right central midfield, couldn't he, to really shut that sort of attack option down and cover the frailties of both.
Yeah, definitely. If it's a midfield too, whether it's Thiago or someone else coming in. Well, if it's Henderson starting, then he's always going to stay on that right side. But if it's Thiago and Fabinho, then definitely Fabinho being on that right side would assist both Elliott and Trent in kind of covering up their defensive miscommunication or issues in tracking back players. There were a couple of miscues in our last match, namely that super crazy cross into the box that Gomez, Trent, and Elliott didn't kind of know how to deal with. That kind of fell in for a chance there against West Ham. And that was one of the examples there where Elliott didn't know to come in a little bit further to kind of cover up the player so that Trent can guard that back line, so that back post. So, but in the subsequent defensive encounter, they did do well communicating. So it's a growing process for both of them. Elliott's a young player. Trent's still young for all the years of experience that he does have, and with them, you want to get the minutes on the pitch to kind of hone that. If long term we see we're going to stick with that 4-4-2, which it does appear to be. We tweeted out earlier in our account that Klopp foresees his top two leading the line being Darwin and Salah in their fast-paced system. So hopefully that'll continue. And for Elliott to remain in that starting position, he needs to work on his game and get that combination with Trent working.
Who do you think will be the midfield two, James? I don't think you said.
I didn't. I think he will go with Henderson and Fab. I think he'll give a break to Thiago because I think Thiago's due one. And I think if he's going to play Elliott and he's going to play Trent on the right side, which I actually think he will do because I quite like Elliott on the right-hand side, to be honest, as opposed to when he played right central midfielder. I'm not a big fan of him there. I think he'll play Henderson there to have the communication with both of them.
Yeah. He played well the other night, Henderson. I thought I saw on our player ratings, whoever tweeted that out, they gave him 5, which I thought was a disgrace.
That's pretty much a 10 for this account, isn't it? LFC transfer ring. Give Henderson a 5. That's a 10.
I thought he was arguably one of our best players, without a doubt, on Wednesday. But yeah, he was given 5, which I cannot agree with.
Probably the highest this account's given him all season. But
I'll echo that, Neil. He had a good match for the most part, but the thing with Henderson is that regardless of how well he does things, you do still have those moments where you can see his shortcomings, whether it's balls that are up in the air, quickly playing passes to teammates in a bad position that'll lead to turnovers, or kind of slowing down the play and passing it backwards, kind of going against our benefit there. But for the most part, he has kind of cleaned it up since we moved to that midfield pivot. I think that's kind of helped them stay within his zone as far as a defensive responsibility and being way more solid. So his play has definitely improved at these last run of matches.
Yeah, and to be fair to him, the other night, I agree with you that the switch to that kind of double pivot in midfield has suited him. But I felt when others were struggling on Wednesday, he became a bit of a driving force even to push forward, and he created 2 or 3 decent opportunities with his runs going forward as well. So I just thought he gets so much stick. I think credit where credit's due. He played well on Wednesday.
I think part of the struggle sometimes is like when the team starts putting like all the changes that were made against West Ham, it all felt a bit disjointed. Like I wasn't a big fan of Curtis Jones on the left wing. I just don't think he's got the pace to play that position. But he was put there, and I think it starts like when things start to get a bit clunky, then we start to get pressed and things start to get harried, and then passes go astray. And I think everyone's eyes go to the player that they're most infuriated about. I've said this on our chat, and I think that's a lot of people. That's Henderson. It used to be Lucas way back when. Lucas used to be hated by Liverpool fans. I put a tweet out saying that the other day, and someone replied going, "Are you stupid? No one's ever hated Lucas." I was like, "I'm sorry, who are you?"
They did big to begin with. He was 8.5 million from a Brazilian attacking midfielder. Everyone he came in, everyone thought he was going to be like Coutinho type player, and he wasn't. But a couple of years down the road, he became a much more solid and very good player for the club. Yeah,
and has the 3rd most tackles in Premier League history.
No, another great stat. So interesting what you say about Jones. I don't. Jones for me is far too cautious. So he's got immense talent. He can beat players. He's good on the ball. He can score goals. I felt when he came on the other night, our attacking threat on the left side was diluted, and he plays so cautiously, and maybe it's the way he's told to play. But I felt with Carvalho out there, there's a player there looking to take risks and trying to look to make things happen in that final third. And I think we lost that emphasis actually when he went off with Jones coming on, because the biggest frustration with me and Curtis Jones, and it might not be him, it may be the way he's being told to play, is he can be far more creative and have far more end product, like he did at Porto away last season, than he shows in most of the matches he plays. It was his first 30 minutes back. I have to caveat it with that. But I just felt it was a very cautious performance bringing him onto the left.
Like, just to add to that, perhaps he a little bit more cautious. I kind of felt he was the only one between him, Fabinho, Henderson, who was still on the pitch there, who kind of invited the pressure that West Ham were trying to apply, and kind of able to dribble out of it or pass the open teammate. And that's one of the qualities that Curtis does bring to the table. I've always admired his ball carrying ability, and I do kind of agree with you, Neil. He kind of needs more of that license to roam and be creative out there, as we've seen last year against Brentford, which we unfortunately gave up to a draw, but he scored just the absolute worldie of a goal, and I think he just needs his opportunities to kind of take those chances. He almost had a goal that, if not for a brilliant save there, to kind of put the game to bed against West Ham. But I think with all our injuries and the lack of attacking options there on the left, I think we can definitely foresee Curtis playing a lot more, especially on that left-hand side.
I mean, you're not going to get any disagreement from me. I think Curtis is an obvious one. When Curtis is playing in a team like in the League Cup or the FA Cup, and he's the main man and he's creating play and he's dominating how it all happens, Curtis Jones just runs the game, doesn't he? And he's brilliant at running the game. And I think when he comes in and he feels like he's the junior, then, as Neil said, I think he can play a little bit more too defensive. I would love to see a confident Curtis Jones play freely in a full-strength Liverpool team, because I do think he has the playmaking abilities of Thiago. Maybe he's not Thiago, but he's got that quality to run a game. I think it all comes down to confidence with him. But we're going to close off. We're going to start with some score predictions for early kickoff. It's never a high-scoring one for me, early kickoff, Neil. What do you think the score's going to be?
So I think the first goal will be key, because I think if they score first, the crowd could get up and it could become a difficult match. but I think we'll be all right, and I think we'll win 2-0.
Do you want to go as far as goal scorers, or are you just going 2-0?
I will go 2-0. I will go Mohamed Salah and Roberto Firmino.
Classic Jen, 9-0. Rigo, are you going 9-0?
No. I'd love it. It definitely helps us in
7-0?
goal differential. But as far as predicted score, considering the amount of change that we could possibly see with the lineup and how we've fared when we have switched things up, I definitely could foresee a 2-0 win as well. That's been pretty much the average as far as what we've scored, and the average as far as Nottingham Forrest has allowed this season as well. I'm hoping for another clean sheet from our team. We've got to keep that going. We've kind of lost our way prior to that as far as allowing too many goals, but I think we can keep Nottingham Forest off of the scoreboard and win 2-0, hopefully a little bit more comfortable than the West Ham win on Wednesday.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go 3-0, and I actually think that Núñez will play just because I think his confidence is up, and as long as he's come through that whatever checks and balances they've got, I think you need to keep the momentum going with him. And I think I will go with a Darwin single and a Mo 2. Right, so a duo for Mo and a single one for Darwin Núñez. Now, if you are new here, please make sure that you leave a like and subscribe to the video. We are doing a watch along tomorrow, probably. I don't know what's happening with Louis. There's some messages flying around, so it may be me, it may be Rigo, it may be just, pictures of animals that Darwin Núñez can outrun. We don't know yet, but someone will probably be here to cover it. So make sure that you tune in, because early kickoffs can be fun. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll catch you on the next one. Have a great weekend.